After Love by Sarah Teasdale. Read for Librivox.org by Andrew Nance. There is no magic when we meet. We speak as other people do. You work no miracle for me, nor I for you. You are the wind and I the sea. There is no splendor any more. I have grown listless as the pool beside the shore. But though the pool is safe from storm, and from the tide has found surcease, it grows more bitter than the sea for all its peace. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Casey's Revenge by James Wilson. Read for Librivox.org by Tom Merritt. Being a reply to Casey at the Bat. There were saddened hearts in Mudville. For a week, or even more, there were muttered oaths and curses. Every fan in town was sore. "Just think," said one, "how soft it looked with Casey at the bat, and then to think he'd go and spring a bush league trick like that." All his past fame was forgotten. He was now a hopeless shine. They called him "Strike Out Casey" from the mayor down the line. And as he came to bat each day his bosom heaved a sigh, while a look of hopeless fury shone in mighty Casey's eye. The lane is long, someone has said, that never turns again, and fate, though fickle, often gives another chance to men. And Casey smiled. His rugged face no longer wore a frown. The pitcher who had started all the trouble came to town. All Mudville has assembled. 10,000 fans had come to see the twirler who had put big Casey on the bum. And when he stepped into the box, the multitude went wild. He doffed his cap in proud disdain, but Casey only smiled. "Play ball!" the umpire's voice rang out. And then the game began. But in that throng of thousands there was not a single fan who thought that Mudville had a chance. And with the setting sun their hopes sank low. The rival team was leading 4-1. The last half of the ninth came round with no change in the score. But when the first man up hit safe, the crowd began to roar. The din increased. The echo of 10,000 shouts was heard when the pitcher hit the second and gave 4 balls to the third. 3 men on base, nobody out. 3 runs to tie the game. A triple meant the highest niche in Mudville's Hall of Fame. But here the rally ended, and the gloom was deep as night when the 4th one fouled to catcher, and the 5th flew out to right. A dismal groan in chorus came. A scowl was on each face when Casey walked up, bat in hand, and slowly took his place. His bloodshot eyes in fury gleamed. His teeth were clenched in hate. He gave his cap a vicious hook and pounded on the plate. But fame is fleeting as the wind, and glory fades away. There were no wild and woolly cheers, no glad acclaim this day. They hissed and groaned and hooted as they clamored, "Strike him out!" But Casey gave no outward sign that he had heard the shout. The pitcher smiled and cut one loose. Across the plate it spread. Another hiss, another groan. "Strike 1!" the umpire said. Zip, like a shot, the second curve broke just below his knee. "Strike 2!" the umpire roared aloud. But Casey made no plea. No roasting for the umpire now. His was an easy lot. But here the pitcher twirled again. Was that a rifle shot? A whack, a crack, and out through space the leather pellet flew, a blot against the distant sky, a speck against the blue. Above the fence in center field, in rapid whirling flight, the sphere sailed on. The blot grew dim, and then was lost to sight. 10,000 hats were thrown in air. 10,000 threw a fit. But no one ever found the ball that mighty Casey hit. Oh, somewhere in this favored land dark clouds may hide the sun, and somewhere bands no longer play, and children have no fun, and somewhere over blighted lives there hangs a heavy pall. But Mudville hearts are happy now, for Casey hit the ball. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
City Trees by Edna St. Vincent Millay. Read for Librivox.org by Heidi Pack. The trees along this city street, save for the traffic and the trains, would make a sound as thin and sweet as trees in country lanes. And people standing in their shade out of a shower undoubtedly would hear such music as is made upon a country tree. Oh, little leaves that are so dumb against the shrieking city air, I watch you when the wind has come. I know what sound is there. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Closing Rhymes by William Butler Yeats. Read for Librivox.org by John Booth. While I, from that reed-throated whisperer, who comes at need, although not now as once, a clear articulation in the air, but inwardly, some rise, companions, beyond the fling of the dull ass's hoof, Ben Jonson's phrase, and find when June is come, at Kyle na know, under that ancient roof, a sterner conscience and a friendlier home. I can forgive even that wrong of wrongs, those undreamt accidents that have made me, seeing that fame has perished this long while being but a part of ancient ceremony, notorious, till all my priceless things are but a post the passing dogs defile. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Darkness by Lord Byron. Read for Librivox.org by Matthew Stieff. I had a dream, which was not all a dream. The bright sun was extinguished, and the stars did wander darkling in the eternal space, rayless and pathless, and the icy earth swung blind and blackening in the moonless air. Morn came and brought no day, and men forgot their passions in the dread of this their desolation, and all hearts were chilled into a selfish prayer for light, and they did live by watchfires, and the thrones, the palaces of crowned kings, the huts, the habitations of all things which dwell, were burnt for beacons. Cities were consumed, and men were gathered round their blazing homes to look once more into each other's face. Happy were those who dwelt within the eye of the volcanoes and their mountain torch. A fearful hope was all the world contained. Forests were set on fire, but hour by hour they fell and faded, and the crackling trunks extinguished with a crash, and all was black. The brows of men by the despairing light wore an unearthly aspect, as by fits the flashes fell upon them. Some lay down and hid their eyes and wept, and some did rest their chins upon their clenched hands and smiled, and others hurried to and fro, and fed their funeral piles with fuel, and looked up with mad disquietude on the dull sky, the pall of a past world, and then again with curses cast them down upon the dust, and gnashed their teeth and howled. The wild birds shrieked, and terrified did flutter on the ground, and flap their useless wings. The wildest brutes came tame and tremulous. The vipers crawled and twined themselves among the multitude, hissing but stingless. They were slain for food. And war, which for a moment was no more, did glut himself again. A meal was bought with blood, and each sate sullenly apart, gorging himself in gloom. No love was left. All earth was but one thought, and that was death, immediate and inglorious. And the pang of famine fed upon all entrails. Men died, and their bones were tombless as their flesh. The meagre by the meagre were devoured. Even dogs assailed their masters, all save one, and he was faithful to a corpse, and kept the birds and beasts and famished men at bay, till hunger clung them, or the dropping dead lured their lank jaws. Himself sought out no food, but with a piteous and perpetual moan, and a quick desolate cry, licking the hand which answered not with a caress, he died. The crowd was famished by degrees, but two of an enormous city did survive, and they were enemies. They met beside the dying embers of an altar place, where had been heaped a mass of holy things for an unholy usage. They raked up, and shivering scraped with their cold skeleton hands the feeble ashes, and their feeble breath blew for a little life, and made a flame which was a mockery. Then they lifted up their eyes as it grew lighter, and beheld each other's aspects, saw and shrieked and died. Even of their mutual hideousness they died, unknowing who he was upon whose brow famine had written fiend. The world was void. The populous and the powerful was a lump, seasonless, herbless, treeless, manless, lifeless, a lump of death, a chaos of hard clay. The rivers, lakes, and ocean all stood still, and nothing stirred within their silent depths. Ships sailorless lay rotting on the sea, and their masts fell down piecemeal. As they dropped, they slept on the abyss without a surge. The waves were dead, the tides in their grave. The moon, their mistress, had expired before. The winds were withered in the stagnant air, and the clouds perished. Darkness had no need or aid from them. She was the universe. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Epilogue by Charles Baudelaire. Translated by Arthur Symonds. Read for Librivox.org by Winston Tharp. With heart at rest I climbed the citadel's steep height, and saw the city as from a tower, hospital, brothel, prison, and such hells where evil comes up softly like a flower. Thou knowest, O Satan, patron of my pain, not for vain tears I went up at that hour, but like an old, sad, faithful lecher, fain to drink delight of that enormous troll whose hellish beauty makes me young again. Whether thou sleep with heavy vapours full, sodden with day, or new apparel stand in gold-laced veils of evening beautiful, I love thee, infamous city. Harlots and hunted have pleasures of their own to give, the vulgar herd can never understand. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Ford o' Kabul River by Rudyard Kipling. Read for Librivox.org by Winston Tharp. Kabul towns by Kabul River, blow the bugle, draw the sword. There I left my mate forever, wet and dripping by the ford. Ford, 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 O Kabul River, ford, O Kabul River in the dark. There's the river up and brimmin', and there's our squadron swimmin' 'cross the ford of Kabul River in the dark. Kabul town's a blasted place. Blow the bugle, draw the sword. Struth, I shan't forget his face, wet and drippin' by the ford. Ford, 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 O Kabul River, ford, O Kabul River in the dark. Keep the crossing stakes beside you, and they will surely guide you 'cross the ford of Kabul River in the dark. Kabul town is sun and dust. Blow the bugle, draw the sword. I'd as soon ha' drowned first, 'stead of him beside the ford. Ford, 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 O Kabul River, ford, O Kabul River in the dark. You can 'ear the 'orses threshing, you can 'ear the men a-splashing 'cross the ford o' Kabul River in the dark. Kabul town was ours to take. Blow the bugle, draw the sword. I'd ha' left it for his sake, him that left me by the ford. Ford, 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 O Kabul River, ford, O Kabul River in the dark. It's none so bloomin' dry there. Ain't you never comin' nigh there, 'cross the ford o' Kabul River in the dark? Kabul town'll go to hell. Blow the bugle, draw the sword. For I see him live and well, him the best beside the ford. Ford, 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 O Kabul River, ford, O Kabul River in the dark. God help 'em if they blunder, for their boots'll pull 'em under by the ford of Kabul River in the dark. Turn your oars from Kabul town, blow the bugle, draw the sword. Him and 'arf my troop is down, down and drownded by the ford. Ford, 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 O Kabul River, ford, O Kabul River in the dark. There's the river low and fallin', but it ain't no use a-callin' 'cross the ford o' Kabul River in the dark. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Going for Water by Robert Frost. Read for Librivox.org by John Booth. The well was dry beside the door, and so we went, with pail and can, across the fields behind the house, to seek the brook if it still ran. Not loth to have excuse to go, because the autumn eve was fair, though chill, because the fields were ours, and by the brook our woods were there. We ran as if to meet the moon, that slowly dawned behind the trees, the barren boughs without the leaves, without the birds, without the breeze. But once within the wood we paused, like gnomes that hid us from the moon, ready to run hiding new, with laughter when she found us soon. Each laid on other a staying hand, to listen ere we dared to look, and in the hush we joined to make, we heard, we knew we heard, the brook. A note as from a single place, a slender tinkling fall that made now drops that floated on the pool, like pearls, and now a silver blade. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
If I Should Die Tonight by Ben King. Read for Librivox by Ashley Jane. If I should die tonight, and you should come to my cold corpse and say, weeping and heartsick o'er my lifeless clay, if I should die tonight, and you should come in deepest grief and woe, and say, here's that $10 that I owe, I might arise in my large white cravat, and say, what's that? If I should die tonight, and you should come to my cold corpse and kneel, clasping my bier to show the grief you feel, I say, if I should die tonight, and you should come to me, and there and then just even hint about payin' me that 10, I might arise the while, but I'd drop dead again. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
In a Station of the Metro by Ezra Pound. Read for Librivox.org by Tim Nelson, March 23, 2013, Seattle, Washington. In a Station of the Metro. The apparition of these faces in the crowd. Petals on a wet, black bough. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Law by James Beattie. Read for Librivox.org by Gina Wei. Laws, as we read in ancient sages, have been like cobwebs in all ages. Cobwebs for little flies are spread, and laws for little folk are made. But if an insect of renown, hornet or beetle, wasp or drone, be caught in quest of sport or plunder, the flimsy fetter flies in sunder. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock by T. S. Eliot. Read for Librivox.org by Michael Dowling. Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky, like a patient etherized upon a table. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats of restless nights in one-night cheap hotels and sawdust restaurants with oyster shells, streets that follow like a tedious argument of insidious intent to lead you to an overwhelming question, or do not ask, what is it? Let us go and make our visit. In the room the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. The yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes, the yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle on the window panes, licked its tongue into the corners of the evening, lingered upon the pools that stand in drains, let fall upon its back the soot that falls from chimneys, slipped by the terrace, made a sudden leap, and seeing that it was a soft October night, curled once about the house and fell asleep. And indeed there will be time for the yellow smoke that slides along the street, rubbing its back upon the window panes. There will be time to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. There will be time to murder and create, and time for all the works and days of hands that lift and drop a question on your plate. Time for you, and time for me, and time yet for 100 indecisions, and time for 100 visions and revisions before the taking of a toast and tea. In the room the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. And indeed there will be time to wonder, do I dare, and do I dare? Time to turn back and descend the stair with a bald spot in the middle of my hair. They will say, how his hair is growing thin. My morning coat, my collar mounting firmly to the chin, my necktie rich and modest, but asserted by a simple pin. They will say, but how his arms and legs are thin. Do I dare disturb the universe? In a minute there is time for decisions and revisions, which a minute will reverse. For I have known them all already. Known them all. I've known the evenings, mornings, afternoons. I have measured out my life with coffee spoons. I know the voices dying with the dying fall beneath the music from a farther room. So how should I presume? And I have known the eyes already, known them all, the eyes that fix you in a formulated phrase. And when I am formulated, sprawling on a pin, when I am pinned and wriggling on the wall, then how should I begin to spit out all the butt ends of my days and ways? And how should I presume? And I have known the arms already, known them all, arms that are braceleted and white and bare, but in the lamplight dined with light brown hair. Is it perfume from a dress that makes me so digress? Arms that lie along a table, or wrap about a shawl. And should I then presume? And how should I begin? Shall I say I have gone at dusk through narrow streets and watched the smoke that rises from the pipes of lonely men in shirt-sleeves leaning out of windows? I should have been a pair of ragged claws scuttling across the floors of silent seas. And the afternoon, the evening, sleeps so peacefully, smoothed by long fingers, asleep, tired, or it malingers, stretched on the floor, here beside you and me. Should I, after tea and cakes and ices, have the strength to force the moment to its crisis? But though I have wept and fasted, wept and prayed, though I have seen my head, grown slightly bald, brought in upon a platter, I am no prophet, and here's no great matter. I have seen the moment of my greatness flicker, and I have seen the eternal footman hold my coat and snicker, and in short, I was afraid. And would it have been worth it, after all, after the cups, the marmalade, the tea, among the porcelain, among some talk of you and me, would it have been worth while to have bitten off the matter with a smile, to have squeezed the universe into a ball, to roll it towards some overwhelming question, to say, I am Lazarus, come from the dead, come back to tell you all, I shall tell you all, if one, settling a pillow by her head, should say, that is not what I meant at all, that is not it at all. And would it have been worth it, after all? Would it have been worth while, after the sunsets, and the dooryards, and the sprinkled streets, after the novels, after the teacups, after the skirts that trail along the floor, and this, and so much more? It is impossible to say just what I mean, but as if a magic lantern through the nerves in patterns on a screen, would it have been worth while if one, settling a pillow or throwing off a shawl, and turning toward the window, should say, that is not it at all, that is not what I meant at all. No, I am not Prince Hamlet, nor was meant to be. Am an attendant lord, one that will do to swell a progress, start a scene or two, advise the prince, no doubt an easy tool, deferential, glad to be of use, politic, cautious and meticulous, full of high sentence but a bit obtuse, at times, indeed, almost ridiculous, almost at times the fool. I grow old, I grow old. I shall wear the bottoms of my trousers rolled. Shall I part my hair behind? Do I dare to eat a peach? I shall wear white flannel trousers and walk upon the beach. I have heard the mermaids singing, each to each. I do not think that they will sing to me. I have seen them riding seaward on the waves, combing the white hair of the waves blown back, when the wind blows the water white and black. We have lingered in the chambers of the sea, by seagulls wreathed with seaweed red and brown, till human voices wake us, and we drown. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Mending Wall by Robert Frost. Read for Librivox.org by Tom Merritt. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen ground swell under it, and spills the upper boulders in the sun, and makes gaps even two can pass abreast. The work of hunters is another thing. I have come after them, and made repair where they have left not one stone on a stone but they would have the rabbit out of hiding, to please the yelping dogs. The gaps, I mean, no one has seen them made or heard them made, but at spring mending time we find them there. I let my neighbor know beyond the hill, and on a day we meet to walk the line and set the wall between us once again. We keep the wall between us as we go, to each the boulders that have fallen to each. And some are loaves, and some so nearly balls we have to use a spell to make them balance. Stay where you are until our backs are turned. We wear our fingers rough with handling 'em. Oh, just another kind of outdoor game, one on a side. It comes to little more. There where it is we do not need the wall. He is all pine, and I am apple orchard. My apple trees will never get across and eat the cones under his pines, I tell him. He only says, "Good fences make good neighbors." Spring is the mischief in me, and I wonder if I could put a notion in his head. Why do they make good neighbors? Isn't it where there are cows? But here there are no cows. Before I built a wall I'd ask to know what I was walling in or walling out, and to whom I was like to give offence. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down. I could say elves to him, but it's not elves exactly, and I'd rather he said it for himself. I see him there, bringing a stone grasped firmly by the top in each hand, like an old stone savage armed. He moves in darkness, as it seems to me, not of woods only, and the shade of trees. He will not go behind his father's saying, and he likes having thought of it so well, he says again, "Good fences make good neighbors." End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
My Shadow by Robert Louis Stevenson. Read for Librivox.org by Tamanna Haq. I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me, and what can be the use of him is more than I can see. He is very, very like me from the heels up to the head, and I see him jump before me when I jump into my bed. The funniest thing about him is the way he likes to grow. Not at all like proper children, which is always very slow, for he sometimes shoots up taller like an india rubber ball, and he sometimes goes so little that there is none of him at all. He hasn't got a notion of how children ought to play, and can only make a fool of me in every sort of way. He stays so close behind me, he's a coward, you can see. A thing shame to stick to nursie as that shadow sticks to me. One morning, very early, before the sun was up, I rose and found the shining dew on every buttercup. But my lazy little shadow, like an errant sleepy head, had stayed at home behind me and was fast asleep in bed. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
My Summer Retreat by George R. Sims. Read for Librivox.org by Alan Wayman. I'm off away from London, please, to build a little place where I can have some air to breathe and lots of open space. I want to find a mountain top that isn't over bleak, without a hilly road to it, because my legs are weak. I do not want a neighbourhood beset with country clowns, but just a neighbour here and there who knows the way of towns. They must not come and call on me, for callers are a bore, but I shall go and visit them, say twice a week or more. I want the country round about to be the sort of thing of which the chaps who write for books perpetually sing, renowned throughout the British Isles as just the place to see. But all the country round about I want reserved to me. I want the strict simplicity of rural life to reign o'er wooded height and shady dell and daisy-dotted plain. But there must be a station close, and frequent trains must start, to run me at a modest fare to almost every part. No echo of the city life must find its way to mar. I want no village public-house with yokels at the bar, but just a dainty restaurant where haply I may dine, and find a perfect French cuisine, and get the best of wine. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Never Give All the Heart by William Butler Yeats. Read for Librivox.org by Michael Dalling. Never give all the heart, for love will hardly seem worth thinking of to passionate women, if it seem certain, and they never dream that it fades out from kiss to kiss, for everything that's lovely is but a brief, dreamy, kind delight. Oh, never give the heart outright, for they, for all smooth lips can say, have given their hearts up to the play, and who could play it well enough if deaf and dumb and blind with love? He that made this knows all the cost, for he gave all his heart and lost. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
New Year by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for Librivox.org by Heidi Pack. New Year, I look straight in your eyes. Our ways and our interests blend. You may be a foe in disguise, but I shall believe you a friend. We get what we give in our measure. We cannot give pain and get pleasure. I give you good will and good cheer, and you must return it, New Year. We get what we give in this life, though often the giver indeed waits long upon doubting and strife, ere proving the truth of my creed. But somewhere, some way, and forever, reward is the meed of endeavor, and if I am really worthwhile, New Year, you will give me your smile. You hide in your mystical hand no luck that I cannot control, if I trust my own courage and stand on the infinite strength of my soul. Man holds in his brain and his spirit a power that is godlike, or near it, and he who has measured his force can govern events and their course. You come with a crown on your brow, New Year, without blemish or spot, yet you, and not I, sir, must bow, for time is the servant of thought. Whatever you bring me of trouble shall turn into good and then double, if my spirit looks up without fear to the source that you came from, New Year. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Non sum qualis eram bonae, sum regno cenarii, by Ernest Dowson. Read for Librivox.org by Winston Tharp. I am not as I was under the reign of the good Cinara. Horace. Last night, yesternight, betwixt her lips and mine there fell thy shadow, Cinara. Thy breath was shed upon my soul between the kisses and the wine, and I was desolate and sick of an old passion. Yea, I was desolate and bowed my head. I have been faithful to thee, Cinara, in my fashion. All night upon mine heart I felt her warm heart beat. Night long within mine arms in love and sleep she lay. Surely the kisses of her bought red mouth were sweet. But I was desolate and sick of an old passion when I awoke and found the dawn was gray. I have been faithful to you, Cinara, in my fashion. I have forgot much, Cinara, gone with the wind, flung roses, roses riotously with the throng, dancing, to put thy pale lost lilies out of mind. But I was desolate and sick of an old passion, yea, all the time, because the dance was long. I have been faithful to thee, Cinara, in my fashion. I cried for madder music and for stronger wine. But when the feast is finished and the lamps expire, then falls thy shadow, Sonara. The night is thine, and I am desolate and sick of an old passion, yea, hungry for the lips of my desire. I have been faithful to thee, Sonara, in my fashion. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Pact by Ezra Pound. Read for Librivox.org by Tim Nelson, March 23, 2013, Seattle, Washington. A Pact. I make a pact with you, Walt Whitman. I have detested you long enough. I come to you as a grown child who has had a pig-headed father. I am old enough now to make friends. It was you that broke the new wood. Now is a time for carving. We have one sap and one root. Let there be commerce between us. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Pessimist by Ben King. Read for Librivox by Ashley Jane. Nothing to do but work. Nothing to eat but food. Nothing to wear but clothes to keep one from going nude. Nothing to breathe but air. Quick as a flash 'tis gone. Nowhere to fall but off. Nowhere to stand but on. Nothing to comb but hair. Nowhere to sleep but in bed. Nothing to weep but tears. Nothing to bury but dead. Nothing to sing but songs. Ah well, alas, alack, nowhere to go but out. Nowhere to come but back. Nothing to see but sights. Nothing to quench but thirst. Nothing to have but what we've got. Thus through life we are cast. Nothing to strike but a gait. Everything moves that goes. Nothing at all but common sense can ever withstand these woes. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Rondo by Leigh Hunt. Read for Librivox.org by Alan Wayman. Jenny kissed me when we met, jumping from the chair she sat in. Time, you thief, who love to get sweets into your list, put that in. Say I'm weary, say I'm sad, say that health and wealth have missed me. Say I'm growing old, but add, Jenny kissed me. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Silence by Edgar Lee Masters. Read for Librivox.org by Jeff Chestnut. I have known the silence of the stars and of the sea, and the silence of the city when it pauses, and the silence of a man and a maid, and the silence of the sick when their eyes roam about the room. And I ask, for the depths of what use is language? A beast of the field moans a few times when death takes its young, and we are voiceless in the presence of realities. We cannot speak. A curious boy asks an old soldier sitting in front of the grocery store, "How did you lose your leg?" And the old soldier is struck with silence, or his mind flies away because he cannot concentrate it on Gettysburg. It comes back jocosely, and he says, "A bear bit it off." And the boy wonders, while the old soldier dumbly, feebly lives over the flashes of guns, the thunder of cannon, the shrieks of the slain, and himself lying on the ground, and the hospital surgeons, the knives, and the long days in bed. But if he could describe it all, he would be an artist. But if he were an artist, there would be deeper wounds which he could not describe. There is the silence of a great hatred, and the silence of a great love, and the silence of an embittered friendship. There is the silence of a spiritual crisis, through which your soul, exquisitely tortured, comes with visions not to be uttered into a realm of higher life. There is the silence of defeat. There is the silence of those unjustly punished, and the silence of the dying whose hand suddenly grips yours. There is the silence between father and son, when the father cannot explain his life, even though he be misunderstood for it. There is the silence that comes between husband and wife. There is the silence of those who have failed, and the vast silence that covers broken nations and vanquished leaders. There is the silence of Lincoln thinking of the poverty of his youth, and the silence of Napoleon after Waterloo, and the silence of Jeanne d'Arc, saying amid the flames, "Blessed Jesus," revealing in 2 words all sorrows, all hope. And there is the silence of age, too full of wisdom for the tongue to utter it in words intelligible to those who have not lived the great range of life. And there is the silence of the dead. If we who are in life cannot speak of profound experiences, why do you marvel that the dead do not tell you of death? Their silence shall be interpreted as we approach them. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sonnet 18 by William Shakespeare. Read for Librivox.org by Hunter. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate, for if winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date, sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed, by thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou oust, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Stars Stand Up in the Air by Thomas MacDonagh. Read for Librivox.org by Gina Way. The stars stand up in the air, the sun and the moon are gone, the strand of its waters is bare, and her sway is swept from the swan. The cuckoo was calling all day, hid in the branches above. How my Storin is fled away, 'tis my grief that I gave her my love. 3 things through love I see, sorrow and sin and death, and my mind reminding me that this doom I breathe with my breath. But sweeter than violin or lute is my love, and she left me behind. I wish that all music were mute, and I to my beauty were blind. She's more shapely than swan by the strand, she's more radiant than grass after dew. She's more fair than the stars where they stand, 'tis my grief that her ever I knew. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Suicide in the Trenches by Siegfried Sassoon. Read for Librivox.org by Jeff Chestnut. I knew a simple soldier boy who grinned at life in empty joy, slept soundly through the lonesome dark, and whistled early with the lark. In winter trenches, cowed and glum, with crumps and lice and lack of rum, he put a bullet through his brain. No one spoke of him again. You smug-faced crowds with kindling eye, who cheer when soldier lads march by, sneak home and pray you'll never know the hell where youth and laughter go. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Telephone by Robert Frost. Read for Librivox.org by Tom Merritt. When I was just as far as I could walk from here today, there was an hour, all still, when leaning with my head against a flower, I heard you talk. Don't say I didn't, or I heard you say. You spoke from that flower on the windowsill. Do you remember what it was you said? First, tell me what you thought you heard. Having found the flower and driven a bee away, I leaned my head, and holding by the stalk, I listened, and I thought I caught the word. What was it? Did you call me by my name, or did you say? Someone said, "Come." I heard it as I bowed. I may have thought as much, but not aloud. Well, so I came. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Two Old Bachelors by Edward Lear. Read for Librivox.org by Alan Wayman. Two old bachelors were living in one house. One caught a muffin, the other caught a mouse. Said he who caught the muffin to him who caught the mouse, "This happens just in time, for we've nothing in the house save a tiny slice of lemon and a teaspoonful of honey, and what to do for dinner, since we haven't any money? And what can we expect if we haven't any dinner, but to lose our teeth and eyelashes and keep on growing thinner?" Said he who caught the mouse to him who caught the muffin, "We might cook this little mouse, if we only had some stuffin'. If we had but sage and onion, we could do extremely well. But how to get that stuffin', it is difficult to tell." Those two old bachelors ran quickly to the town, and asked for sage and onion as they wandered up and down. They borrowed 2 large onions, but no sage was to be found in the shops, or in the market, or in all the gardens round. But some one said, "A hill there is, a little to the north, and to its perpendicular top a narrow way leads forth. And there among the rugged rocks abides an ancient sage, an earnest man who reads all day a most perplexing page. Climb up and seize him by the toes, all studious as he sits, and pull him down and chop him into endless little bits. Then mix him with your onion, cut up likewise into scraps, when your stuffin' will be ready, and very good, perhaps." Those two old bachelors, without loss of time, the nearly perpendicular crags at once began to climb, and at the top, among the rocks, all seated in a nook, they saw that sage a-reading of a most enormous book. "You earnest sage," aloud they cried, "your book you've read enough in. We wish to chop you into bits to mix you into stuffin'." But that old sage looked calmly up, and with his awful book, at those two bachelors' bald heads a certain aim he took. And over crag and precipice they rolled promiscuous down. At once they rolled, and never stopped in lane or field or town. And when they reached their house, they found, besides their want of stuffin', the mouse had fled, and previously had eaten up the muffin. They left their home in silence by the once convivial door, and from that hour those bachelors were never heard of more. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Voyage to Vinland by James Russell Lowell. Read for Librivox.org by Nancy Beard. March 2013, Kingston, New York. 4 weeks they sailed, a speck in sky-shut seas. Life, where was never life that knew itself, but tumbled lubber-like in blowing whales. Thought where the like had never been before, since thought primeval brooded the abyss. Alone as men were never in the world. They saw the icy foundlings of the sea, white cliffs of silence, beautiful by day, or looming, sudden, perilous at night, in monstrous hush. Or sometimes in the dark, the waves broke ominous with paly gleams, crushed by the prow in sparkles of cold fire. Then came green stripes of sea that promised land, but brought it not. And on the 30th day, low in the west, were wooded shores like cloud. They shouted as men shout with sudden hope, but Bjorn was silent. Such strange loss there is between the dream's fulfillment and the dream, such sad abatement in the goal attained. Then Gudrida, that was a prophetess, wrapped with strange influence from Atlantis, sang. Her words, the vision was the dreaming shores. Looms there the new land, locked in the shadow, long the gods shut it, Niggards of newness, they the o'er old. Little it looks there, slim as a cloud streak, it shall fold peoples, even as a shepherd foldeth his flock. Silent it sleeps now, great ships shall seek it, swarming as salmon. Noise of its numbers 2 seas shall hear. Man from the Northland, man from the Southland, haste empty-handed. No more than manhood bring they, and hands. Dark hair and fair hair, red blood and blue blood, there shall be mingled. Force of the ferment makes the new man. Pick of all kindreds, king's blood shall theirs be, shoots of the eldest, stock upon Midgard, sons of the poor. Them waits the new land, they shall subdue it, leaving their sons' sons. Space for the body, space for the soul. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Was, Is, and Yet to Be by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Read for Librivox.org by Heidi Pack. Was, Is, and Yet to Be were chatting over a cup of tea. In tarnished finery, smelling of must, Was talked of people long turned to dust. Of titles and honors and high estate, all forgotten or out of date. Of wonderful feasts in the long ago, of pride that perished with nothing to show. I loathe the present, said Was with a groan. I live in pleasures that I have known. The Yet to Be, in a gown of gauze, looked over the head of musty Was, and gazed far off into misty space with a rapt expression upon her face. Such wonderful pleasures are coming to me, such glory, such honor, said Yet to Be. No one dreamed in the vast has-been of such successes as I shall win. The past, the present, why, what are they? I live for the joy of a future day. Then Practical Is, in a fresh print dress, spoke up with a laugh. I must confess, I find today so pleasant, she said. I never look back, and seldom ahead. Whatever has been is a finished sum. Whatever will be, why, let it come. Today is mine. And so, you see, I have the past and the yet to be. For today is the future of yesterday, and the past of tomorrow. I live while I may, and I think the secret of pleasure is this, and this alone, said Practical Is. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
When I Was Young by James Stephens. Read for Librivox.org by Joseph Finkberg. I will not know when I am dead, if sun or moon is overhead. I'll stretch out flat without a sound inside a box beneath the ground, and never rise again to see branches lifting on a tree, nor hear the song the finches sing in the spring. I'll not, while sunny ages go, lift a hand or wag a toe, but in a wooden box will be, hidden for eternity, from sea and sun, from sight and sound, from touch of people, voice of friend, from all that makes my heart to bound, denying such an end. It is so strange. I wonder why people die. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.